Hi, it's Native Robin, and this morning I woke up and this was my view out my window. Snowing and blowing, and I thought, what kind of fun job could I do inside? Well, I've seen a lot of videos about the no-soak method to canning pinto beans, and I'm sitting on a bunch of dry pinto beans, and I'm running low on canned beans, so I thought, why not give it a try? So here's my take on canning, the no-soak method of canning pinto beans. Check it out. With these pinto beans, it says triple clean pinto beans. I'm not buying it. So I'm going to wash them off first. Plus, I want to sort out like the broken beans, and if there's a rock in there, something weird. Just because it says triple clean doesn't mean you can pour it right out of the bag and into a jar unless you just want to can some dirt. So let me get some in here. We'll get it cleaned up, and then we'll get them into the jars. Okay, so we're out in the summer kitchen, and I got things all prepped up and ready for canning. Now, I use this old canner. It was actually my mom's canner from 1972. It's stamped on the back. And here's the lid. Now, this bit rubber is brand new from last year. I used the same rubber all of those years. My mom used it all those years. I used it several years. I bought a new one last year. So you get a lot of people making a big deal out of checking that rubber. Well, honestly, they last a long time, okay? Now, inside the pot, this is a double high one. So I'm going to get 18 pints, double stacked, 9 and 9 in here. And so what I do to get that done is I put one of these trays in the bottom, and then I put one of those, another one on top of the first layer of jars. You need to keep the jars off the bottom. Now, if I didn't have a double layer, say I was doing quarts, I didn't have one of these, you can line the bottom with the rings, put a whole layer in there, and I'll keep them off the bottom using rings if you want to do that. But now another pro tip. Okay, hang on. Okay, pro tip. Here we go. If you live where you got crappy water, a lot of lime in the water and stuff like that, take a little bit of vinegar and splash it in. That's all it takes. Just a splash, and that'll keep your jars from getting lime buildup on them, and it'll come out looking nice and pretty for your shelves. Okay, so another thing you gotta do, well, I do, is I use non-iodized salt for the seasoning. That's it. Water, a little bit of salt, beans. That's the only ingredients. No words I can't pronounce. But I had some pickling salt. Honestly, I'm sitting on a 5-year supply of pickles, so I'm going to go ahead and use that salt. A lot of people using a half a teaspoon and a pint of salt, or a pint of beans, that's a lot. I use a quarter of a teaspoon, but I don't level it off, so it's somewhere between a quarter and a half a teaspoon of salt. But that would be the only thing in these is salt, water, and beans. So let's get to filling these jars up. Okay, so in my anticipation for doing this summer kitchen, I bought a used stove off Facebook Marketplace. And I cleaned it up, and it looks great, and I never noticed until today that it only came with one rack. So I put 9 jars in here and 9 jars in the house in that oven. So I'll just, and it works out okay because I'm going to put 9 jars on one layer, then I'll go get 9 more and put them on the next layer. So, but when you buy stuff used, you might want to pay attention to the little things. Okay, so that I don't forget the salt, I used to put the stuff in the jar, put the water in, throw the salt in, and then I'd go, crap, which jars did I put the salt in? So now what I do is when I have the jars sitting here, I put salt in each one of them, before I do anything else to them. That way I know they got the salt, because I can see. Only takes a second. There you go. 1/3 of the ingredients. Now, you just take and you use half a cup of these bean. Well, I'm gonna go get a thing. Hang on. Okay, so we got the salt added. Let's hit the beans. Okay, now we're going to fill them up with water and start getting the lids on them. Now when you fill them up with water, you want to come to the bottom of that ring there. There. And your water don't have to be boiling or nothing, just hot. I just had this on the stove kind of hot. I got the pressure cooker turned on low, kind of preheating, so it don't take as long to get it up to temp. Now I take my debubbler, give it a little stirrer upper, get all the air bubbles out of there. You don't want air bubbles. Now after doing this, you may have to pour a little more water in. Okay, so now I take a little bit of vinegar, the same vinegar I splashed in on there. Just gonna wipe off the lids here. I just don't want any. I mean, the beans isn't that big a deal. Some of these things you can get pretty messy, vegetable soup and stuff. Okay, so now all we gotta do is check on some lids, and we're halfway there. Okay, so to get the lids out, I use one of these little magnetic dudes because I don't want to touch them, keep them clean. Now you don't want to boil the lids. You just want them good and hot, around 180 degrees or so, just to soften up the rubber. Back in the old days, my mom used to boil them, but you don't have to do that no more. You just want to get them kind of softened up so that they seat in and seal better. So I've had these simmering here. Ooh, that lid's plenty hot. So let's get some out. Get them on the jars. I'm just getting them over here. I'll get them on good with the rings here in just a bit. Now the rings just have to be clean. They don't have to be like super duper sterile or none of that crazy. Because we're pressure cookering. If there was anything on here, it'd kill it. Yeah, there we go. You gotta watch some of the rusty rings. They want to catch before they're down tight, and you'll find a lid didn't quite get seat. When that rubber sets in, it'll create a little bit of an air gap so the steam can get out. There we go. Oh, one more. I keep forgetting that guy. There we go. Get him in here. Okay, so a little lowdown about how jars work. Don't ever explain it to some people. So the reason why you don't want it super tight is when this stuff boils, it'll create steam, and that will come out of the jar. And then as the jar cools, the air pressure will help seal it and suck that lid down and hold it into place. So you want to make sure your lid is clean, so there's nothing to obstruct that sealing, and you don't want to over tighten them so the steam can get out. Now the other thing you can do really mess them up is when you're done, you take the thing off the top of the pressure cooker because you want to let the steam out so you can get your stuff out quicker. And you'll hear some popping inside. That's your jars breaking. Because I've done it before, and I learned the hard way that you don't want part of the sealing process is to let the pressure cooker slowly come back to regular pressure. So don't ever pull that jiggler off until that steam is completely out. So we'll show you that towards the end. But right now, let me get the other 9 jars going, and we'll get her loaded up. Okay, so my old school canner has got this simple jiggler. It has 5, 10, and 15 pounds. I use 10 where I live. It's flatter than a pancake here, so we're good for that. If you lived way up in the mountains, it might be different. But we're going to do 10 pounds. Now, this dude here has got to exhaust steam for 10 solid minutes. That's what I do. 10 solid minutes is plenty. I mean, you can do 11 or 12, but I do 10. And then once I pop this baby on and turn the stove down. Now, this is the first time I've ever used the canning stove, so I got to kind of watch it and make sure it's not jiggling too much. Really, it's only got to jiggle 5, 6, 7, maybe times a minute. I mean, just because that means it's getting rid of the extra and it's holding the temperature, and that's all, or pressure. That's all you want it to do. And it's going to run these pints for 75 minutes, quarts, for an hour and a half. So that's what I love about these extra tall canners. I can get 18 pints in here, and that's just awesome. So I'm going to wait for this baby to start jiggling, and then we'll get back to you. Okay, it's I can't see it very well because of the camera and the lighting, but I'm getting steady steam out of there. So we're going to put the old egg timer on 10 minutes. And as soon as it goes ding, I'm going to put that jiggler on the top. Hey, there we go. Let's get this thing on there. As soon as that starts to jiggle, and I'll turn this down a little bit, and then we'll just play with the controls until I learn where it just kind of jiggles now and again, and I can keep track of it. And remember, we're going 75 minutes, an hour and 15 minutes, and then we'll show you what we end up with. Okay, so I got the canned beans out of the canner. Here they are. Looking real good. Now if you notice, the fluid level looks like it's down a little bit. That's because these no-soak beans soaked up the water. So that may be why the Bell canning book wants you to soak them first, because the fluid level stays a little bit more uniform. But still, I did see some people said to leave 1/4 of an inch of headspace. I don't like that. I'm happy with what I got. Now, so I normally use a can of pinto beans I buy from Myers, $1.05 a can. Now I ended up getting 57 pints of pinto beans canned. Now, two good things. The only thing in them is beans, water, and salt. Nothing else. That's a good thing. And I did use canning lids, obviously. And at $3 a box, it took, say, 4. That's $12 plus the 8 something. Call it $21 for my 57 pints. And each pint holds more beans than what I get in those cans. And these 57 of these would be 60 bucks. So, I mean, it's much cheaper. You know, and right now when I went to the Meyer website, they're out of stock. So if you can still get dry beans, I'd get dry beans. And now that I know how simple it is to do it, I'll go ahead and can beans as I need them. Like I'll do a batch of 18, and then it'll last me for a couple months. And then I don't have to keep going to the store and fighting over a can of beans with somebody. But anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you learned how to can no-soak bean method. And feel free to subscribe to my channel. Until next time, this is Dave Robinson. Happy trails.